programming. He is using class invoice app. Well, notice this little kind of suffix app, just to show that this is a class that represents the application as a whole. Okay, you typically would find a class that has this app part to it, and I like it really because it makes it easier to read and understand, to distinguish, the main executable application class compared to other classes. The rules for naming a class. The rules for naming a class is something like this. Notice that I capitalized each word in this compound word main app, and that's the convention here. In my C++ programs, I typically use C in front of this, right? So that to kind of name things C, which stands for class. But in Java, there is no such convention, and I wouldn't do it. So start with a capital letter. Use letters and digits only. So it would be fine to say main app 2013 if I wanted to do something like that, or some sort of like season 2013, whatever that is, right? But not we already mentioned it's unfortunately not as easy when you have. I have a player running here, so let me shut this off. Because the name of the class has to be consistent with the name of Java file. So if I wanted to rename it, I would actually right-click and say refactor, rename. This NetBeans environment will be kind enough to update the name of the class and also change the name of the Java file, and also make necessary adjustments in the project definition that it keeps track of as well. So multiple things are happening. It's possible to do everything by hand manually, but not necessarily what you want, since the environment has it. You trust me, you'd be wasting a lot of your time on much more significant problems than just show off that you can rename your file manually and make sure that everything continues to be okay. So anyway, you get the message. Take advantage of what's available, but at times you have to do things manually because sometimes the environment itself, your project definition could become corrupted itself. Then what you have to do is actually rebuild maybe everything from scratch, and sometimes it's not so easy because so anyway, which brings another point. Keep backups of everything that you do. Typically, if you have one single flash drive and it contains all your schoolwork, I would suggest on a weekly basis make a copy of it. Okay, so if you lose it, and it's easy to forget it somewhere in the USB port and walk away, and it may be the case that you never see it. But for that reason, keep track of it. It's just the worst case that you lose your work. I hate that. So anyway, moving on. So these are some rules for naming classes. Uppercase in front of each name, and make sure that you have a valid identifier overall. So this is what we already said. Capitalize properly. And I'm not going to spend too much time to say how to declare a class. Well, here it is, right? I mean, some place in your file, you're going to be doing this kind of thing, and that's how you declare the class. And of course, also making sure that you have a closing brace. And like as promised, when I create a class, I routinely press Control-C on those things and mark endings of my class like that. I do it equally the same in C++ program or Java program, right? It just helps me quite a bit. As you begin to program, you realize those little tricks or suggestions could save you a lot of time at times. Yes, question.
So there can be multiple classes
In one file?
in one file?
Yes, there can be, if they're declared private. But at least one public class must be present in the file. You can have other classes in the same file, but they must stay private. And that way, those classes will be only available to the code written inside this file. They will stay private to this particular file. More on this later. But it's just convenience in some cases. In most cases, your classes are public. All general purpose classes are public. And that's just routinely, that's what you type in when you create a new class. Moving on, declaring variables. So finally, we can talk about variables. Let's also save this recording.